Tabitha Williams, and welcome to What's Eating Harlem. We cover the most exciting community in the world. There's so much happening in Harlem. Let's get started.
Freedom is coming tomorrow. Get ready, mama, prepare for your freedom. Freedom is coming tomorrow.
There was a play downtown with two South African actors. One of the members of my theater company who were South Africans is Voza. There's a play with two actors from my country. You guys need to see it. So we go down to a theater in the Village and we see this play, and I've never seen acting like this before.
They are Harlem icons. We sit down with Lloyd Williams and Voza Rivers to discuss part one of their Harlem legacies. Harlem hosted an event celebrating successful Black and Latina women business leaders. All of that and more coming up next.
It's important that when you leave today, you make sure that there's a minimum of 2 persons that you did not know when you walked in this door that you know when you're going out. Not necessarily because she's beautiful, and not necessarily because
Harlem Week is something that was created 40 some odd years ago by a unique combination of persons such as Tito Puente and Ozzie Davis and Max Roach and James Baldwin, and we can go on with Percy Sutton being the head of that. The focus of that years ago was recognizing that we were in the doldrums at that time. Things could not have been worse in the urban areas in the world, but particularly in America and even more so in New York. At that time, abandonment of property, crime soaring, drug epidemic, etc. And many people determined that they would then leave those areas and leave the Harlems of the world, and of course that impacted on Harlem, New York. And Percy Sutton and others said, no, let's come together and let's focus on the positive. Let's focus on what we have. Let's focus on the uniqueness of our community. And we created something called Harlem Day. And in so doing, what we did, we cut a ribbon at 138th Street and 7th Avenue on the 4th Saturday in August. That was 1974. And when we cut that ribbon, that day we formally renamed 7th Avenue Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard. The first time a street in New York City had ever been named after a person of color. And that's how we started Harlem Day. And some of the people who were there Malcolm X was my godfather, so I start with Malcolm, and I learned so much from him in terms of how to look at life. My mentor, a senior mentor, was Honorable Percy Sutton, and I could go on with other names, but the most important person in my life was my grandmother. She is the one who directed me and directed our family in terms of what we need to do. Harlem is a state of mind. Harlem is not a geographical area in Manhattan. Harlem is in Kingston, Jamaica. Harlem is in Roxbury, Massachusetts. It's in East St. Louis. It's in Watts, LA. It's Bristol, England. Wherever there are people of color who have a cultural backdrop, they are Harlemites. So what I love about Harlem is its culture. I love its history. I love its stick-to-itiveness in the most difficult of times.
Percy Sutton also played a very important role in Voza Rivers' life.
I got drafted by the Army, and I knew that I didn't want to go because I didn't believe in the Vietnam War. And was trying to figure out if I should leave the country and go to Canada like some of my friends did so they could avoid going into a war that we didn't believe in. Percy Sutton, I spoke, he was the borough president, and had a conversation with him about going into the war. And he said, well, you know, Voza, there's certain occupations that is exempt. And it's in, there's certain government contracts, they need people still. There's certain occupations like police, firemen, construction workers, engineers, etc. I said, oh, so if you made a decision about any of those positions, I will try and help you find a way to be a part of it so that you don't have to go. The school right here, 135th Street is very important to me. 135th Street, it's still there. It was back then my mother went to the school, my sister went. It was called Harriet Beecher Stowe, Junior High School 136. It was an all-girls school. But you can go in on any Saturday and take a civil service exam. And so that's what I did. I walked and I took a civil service exam, and the only exam that day was for police officers. So I took the exam, and I got a real high mark on the exam. And I told Mr. Sutton, and he said, well, Voza, maybe you should go. What war would you rather be in? Local or a war that you didn't believe in? And I decided to go into the police department. He was the borough president. He says, and I'll look after you. I was assigned to something very, very special in the police department, and that was the creation of something called CompStat. CompStat is used to predict, based on statistical information, where crime will probably happen. It is used by the police departments all over the world now, but I worked on it at the New York City Police Department before they adopted it. And then I was assigned to the court system, and I used to sit with judges and district attorneys and legal defense talking about the justice system back then and how they change stories, and be a watchdog to make sure that what really happened is how